Live from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the Total Education Show, the talk shop for teachers, parents, and administrators. Here's your host of the show, Neil Haley, the Total Tutor.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Neil Haley Show. You can check me out on Twitter at TotalTutor, neilhaley.com, and everyone remembers her from 2.5 Men, Melrose Place, According to Jim, but now we're about to chat with her about this Hallmark mystery series. So I'm excited to welcome to the program Courtney-Thorne-Smith. Courtney, thanks for calling. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. We're going to talk today about Sight Unseen and Emma Fielding mystery. First question, Courtney, because we talked about all these great shows you've been on, but I look back at your bio, Lucas. Now, what an amazing experience that was, and how that film speaks to us today as well. Wouldn't you agree?
Exactly. I recently had the director, David Seltzer, over for dinner because I was acting in a theater company in Northern California. I was in high school, and I thought, well, I'm never going to be able to be a professional actor because, that never happened. So I'm just going to act in theater companies in high school and get it out of my system. And then they had this open casting call in San Francisco for this movie, which never happened. And some other kids from my theater company and I went down and auditioned in a church basement in San Francisco.
Oh, wow.
And from that, I got a screen test, and from that, I got a movie. So I literally owe my career to David Seltzer. He plucked me out of a church basement in San Francisco.
See, that's a tremendous story. But, I mean, think about that film, Lucas, and now how we're looking at bullying still today, and we're looking at, considering suicide, all these things were really part of that film and in so many ways, Courtney, wasn't it?
Well, unfortunately, it's universal, right? We've all had that feeling. I think some people have been the bully, but I think most of us have felt bullied in some way throughout our lives, teased, and we felt like the underdog. So it's a story we all relate to. How many movies are about the underdog making it, right? Because It touches all of our hearts. We've all had that feeling.
Definitely, and it's a film that they need to have a reunion with you guys because you were in an all-star cast, weren't you, Courtney? For sure, your first big film.
We really should, yeah. Sadly, obviously, Corey Haim couldn't make it, but the rest of us could. It would be fun. I love that reunions are happening now. I love that that's the new thing because I want to see everybody. I want everybody to get. I have so many casts that I'd like to get together with. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's now talk about your Hallmark mystery, and you play an archaeologist. So tell us a little bit about your character and stuff. Again, and this movie is, again, based on a best-selling book, right? Correct? That's a series. Right. So Dana Cameron wrote a series of books about Emma Fielding. Dana Cameron is an archaeologist and an archaeology professor, so she has a lot of great knowledge that she puts into those books. It was just a treasure trove for me as an actor to get to read them. And I love this character. Emma is independent and eccentric. She loves her work. She loves what she does. She's a very strong individual woman, which I thought would be great fun to play. It's not based on who she's going to get or what romance. There might be romance in the future, but that's not what her story's about. And in this first story, Sight Unseen, she goes back to the town where she spent summers with her father, who's also an archaeologist. And she's trying to prove his theory, which is that there was a colony there before Jamestown, and his peers had made fun of him, and they didn't believe that he was true, and he died with this unproven, so she wants to go and honor his legacy. And in the meantime, she runs into an old romance. She runs into people from her childhood, and she steps on a lot of toes, and there the drama ensues.
Because you find a murder, and then look out, and a body, and then your character has to kind of change the way she is. Because as an archaeologist, you discover what happened a long time ago. Well, now she has to discover who committed this murder, and she's going to get herself in a lot of trouble because of that, right?
Right. Well, she's also studied forensics, so she really does know what she's talking about. And she can't walk away from a mystery because archaeologists are people who love mysteries. There's an FBI agent played by James Tupper who comes in to handle the case, and Emma drives him crazy because she keeps trying to interject herself into the mystery, but into the investigation. But he can't ignore her because she does have a lot of important information. She does know what she's talking about. So as much as he tries to sort of push her off, he can't resist because she keeps giving them information that they need. which is so much fun to play. You know, that relationship between Emma and Agent Connor was so much fun for us to play.
It definitely seems like it for sure. And is this a different character for you, Courtney, in a way, looking back at some of the characters you've had playing an archaeologist?
She's a very different character, and I've always wanted to do a show like this. But the problem is, for the mysteries, generally you're working 14 hours a day, 10 months a year, and I'm a mom, and I just didn't want to be away that much. So I used to think, I long for the days when they had Columbo and McMillan and wife, and they do 3 a year, and you could be a mom most of the time. And all of a sudden, Hallmark brought them back. So it was like an answer to my prayers. Are you kidding? I said, yes, you do 3 a year, you work 3 weeks at a time, and the rest of the time I get to be home being a mom. So I get to have both sides of myself. I get to have the side of myself that's an actor be alive, and I get to the side of myself that's a mom be alive. So it's really great to get to honor both sides of me.
And you look at all these great shows you were on, people would say, where did Courtney go, right? And I know you guest starred in one episode of Fresh Off the Boat, which I love that show, but really you are just trying. It's a phenomenal show. I interviewed Forrest Wheeler. What a great kid he is. He's an awesome guy. And it's
right, and they're amazing, those kids.
Aren't they? Oh, it's one of our favorite shows. But Courtney, the thing is that you have these opportunities now with the way this business has changed. You don't have to always be in Hollywood. You can film different places. You could take off and look at this opportunity with Hallmark. Now, 20 years ago, this is not out there like it is today with all these different streams.
Oh, it's so different now. I think it's an exciting time to be an actor because you can do so many different things, and they're shorter runs. You know, so you don't have to work 10 months a year. You can really take your pick of schedules. And for, the 2.5 Men happened after I had Jack, and that was great. So I was a recurring guest on there for 5 years. So I did half the episodes for 5 years, which was absolutely perfect, but it's difficult to find those jobs. I mean, that's lightning in a bottle. So when this came around, it just felt like such a gift.
Exactly. And so you always have that acting bug, but your family's important, and that's an important part. And I think that's what Hallmark brings to the table, bringing a lot of great, talented people in that are new, but also ones that have been around into the scene because of the schedule. And it's perfect for moms. And again...
Well, yeah. My friend Kimberly Williams Paisley did the one after me. So she was coming in as I was leaving. Unfortunately, we didn't overlap, but she's in the same situation. She's a mom. She wants to spend most of her time with her kids, but she also wants to work. I mean, we're actors, and we've been doing this a long time, and I found myself missing it. And my son is 9 now, so he's getting more independent, and I thought, boy, I don't want to be lurking around saying, hey, what are you doing? He wanted some time to himself, but I wanted to bring this back to life. So it's really good timing for me.
And you got to love Hallmark, right, Courtney? You got to love Hallmark and how they're very...
I love Hallmark. Yeah. They know what they're doing. They tell stories for women, about women. They respect women. It's really a great place to work. They really know who they are, and they stay true to it, which I really respect. I think it's an extraordinary company. And
last question, Courtney, what do you think you're best known for when you're out on the streets getting recognized and stuff? Is it different audiences that remember you from what you've been in?
Different audiences, but I think the most, it's Melrose Place.
Yes.
It's funny because we're coming up, believe it or not, on the 25th anniversary of Melrose Place. And I think it's because it was a time in people's lives. People got together with friends to watch it. So they have, it lives in their heart as a memory of something they did with their friends. So people are still most impacted by that.
All right. Well, we talked about a lot of different things in a short interview, but the best place we can find information on you, everyone needs to tune in June 4th at 9 p.m. Eastern. But also, where can we find info on you, Courtney, for people to check you out? Where can we go?
No, that's it. That's it. Although they told me I will be live tweeting, but first they have to teach me how. So I'm sure that information will be forthcoming.
Are you on Twitter? Are you on Instagram? Any of those places?
I'm not. I am not. I'm the generation before social media. I don't understand it.
Yeah, be ready. It's the wave of the future. It'll help you a lot, and everyone will need to check out and start just hashtagging Courtney-Thorne-Smith right before the episode, and maybe we'll see her on Twitter. Okay, well, good talking to you, Courtney. Thanks for calling.
Thanks so much.
Take care. Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye. See you. Bye-bye. You're listening to The Neil Haley Show, and we'll be back in just a moment. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Neil Haley Show. You can check me out on Twitter at TotalTutor and NeilHaley.com. And I am excited to talk to this guy today. We all know him from History Channel's Vikings, but also TNT's Animal Kingdom. Ben-Robson. Ben, thanks for calling. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Good, bud. I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic, Ben. I wanted to really talk to you about being killed off. I remember the days when I was a professional wrestler and I died. And I know your experience on Vikings was amazing, the History Channel's Vikings, but to die, is that a dream of an actor at one point, to get killed off in a way, I guess, because it's so somber, and in a way it stinks that you're gone, but yet it also is so cool because of the buzz, right?
I mean, honestly, I was actually pretty devastated when that was coming out. Like, I really loved being part of the show. So, you know, I think, you know, when you work on a show like that, it's obviously something where no one has a guaranteed life. I mean, I think so many people come in and out of that show, and that's kind of what keeps it amazing. It keeps the audience guessing the entire time, and even the actors, you were literally at the mercy of the pen and the paper. But I felt very lucky that I had a really sort of significant death, which I know is kind of a weird thing to say, but it was kind of a great moment, and I felt quite poignant in terms of the story of how it was being told. But it's a weird moment to play a death, and actually I had to do it twice that year, because I did it in, spoiler alert, on a movie I played called The Boy at the same time that year. But no, it's always a weird thing, but I also kind of enjoyable at the same time. You kind of get to see how it is, and I got to do something pretty special with Catherine Winnick, who played Lagertha on that. So it was fun, but as you said, it was kind of a weird moment.
It's a devastating thing two ways. One way, as an actor, you always love a way to be able to have something that's so poignant of dying, but ultimately, and how exciting when that happened in a way, but also sad because you love working on the show.
Oh, definitely. And, you know, I think it's also, I only spent sort of a good season on there, and it was, you know, I was another 3 months in, so you kind of, you get so immersed in the world, and not only the one that you're filming in, but also because we're on location, you know, just all the friends you make in such a community. It's like being at school to a certain extent. So it's kind of that wild thing that you do when you work in jobs like that, where all of a sudden you go from being best friends and seeing them every day to, you know, kind of good luck in life or see when you see it. It's really difficult because obviously everyone lives all around the world. I mean, I lived in LA, and other people lived in Australia, and Canada, and England, and France. I think that's kind of the sad part of it. You can spend so much time with people who are very close to you, and then all of a sudden it becomes very difficult to keep in touch with people on a face-to-face value. I mean, obviously we're very lucky.
You think of a show and the opportunities, but this show right now, TNT's Animal Kingdom, I watched the trailer of season 1 and then also season 2, and I'm going to be hooked. Just because I interviewed you, I'm going to watch this show, trust me. And I was absolutely blown away about the story. Because to think about a kid moving from one place to the next and thrown into this crime family, and especially your character, Ben, it's so real for this kid. He loses his mom, and then he's thrown to these relatives that he's absolutely shocked at how crazy and controlling it is, right?
It is. I mean, look, you know, Finn Cole does an amazing job. Who plays his characters you're talking about, who comes in from a very different world and then gets dropped into this world of this really incredibly dysfunctional family, which is led by Ellen Barkin. And it's wild. And, you know, I play a character who really could not be more extreme than anyone else. He's crazy adrenaline junkie, but I just think an addict in every sense, whether it's drugs, sex, rock and roll, or whatever it might be. He just really pushes it to the extreme. So when his character comes in and he's brought up in front of this guy along with the rest of them, and you know, Sean Hannity does a great role playing Pope, who's obviously play someone who's not mentally well either. It's just a world away from what he knows, and I think that's kind of what makes the show such an interesting thing. It's sort of the just how this family operates and the interaction between each other. And I think when his character comes in, it's just the most mind-blowing experience of like, what have I just fallen into? I have no one else to turn to. I'm in this crazy dysfunctional family who are the biggest crime family in the area, and it's a mad world that he walks into, but also at the same time one that's very fun to watch.
It seems like it. I'm going to put it on my list, Ben. We're going to put the DVR type thing, or go back on demand to watch this again. And that's the fabulous thing about this. And honestly, playing a character like the difference between Vikings and then having to play an American character and going and changing that, is that a challenge, especially from growing up not in the United States, and to play a character like this character?
Yeah, it is. I mean, look, I think every character is a challenge. I mean, I would say to friends as well, when you play a character, you have to try and find these things super quickly, and yet these characters are essentially, to be 30 years old, you have to find 30 years of a life in someone to understand and play. And Vikings was obviously in a very different period of time to claim it today as SoCal underworld crime family. It's always a challenge to play people, but it's also something that I really enjoyed getting into, just trying to find the psychology of what you're playing and really the environment you're existing in with that character. And it's fun. I mean, it's definitely a change moving from playing on horses to motorbikes and shields to surfboards. It's the one that I kind of welcome, especially in the costumes I need help putting on, and then all of a sudden I get to walk around in board shorts and in the sun of California. It's kind of a welcome change.
A different shoot for sure. Again, May 30th, Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, the premiere of Animal Kingdom on TNT. Where can we find information on you, Ben, as well? Where can we check you out as well? Where can we go?
Where can we go? I'm on I've got my Instagram, which is Robert Ben, or BBO Ben. And then other than that, obviously season 2, we have season 1, we've got Vikings, and then working on getting some stuff in the hiatus for the next 6 months. So I'll let you know when I know. Hopefully someone will give me another job.
All right, Ben, thanks for calling. Appreciate you calling. Thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
All right, take care. Bye-bye. You're listening to The Neil Haley Show, and we'll be back in just a moment. Hi, everyone, and welcome to The Neil Haley Show. You can check me out on Twitter at TotalTutor and neilhaley.com. And this is a great segment for myself, being a former educator, owns a tutoring and consulting company, and also a former professional athlete. This guest is perfect for my show, and also perfect because we both are doing the same thing, interviewing people as well. So I'm excited to welcome the program from ESPN Sports Science, John-Brenkus, and also your new podcast, The Brink of Midnight. John, thanks for calling, and how are you?
I'm doing so awesome this morning. I can't thank you enough for all your support.
Well, absolutely, John. Let's kind of talk about how the sports science thing started, and the whole process. Do you have a science background, by the way?
Yeah, my formal education actually was at the University of Virginia in rhetoric, communication studies, the theory of the argument. I formed a production company that specialized in sports and science TV because those were my two genuine passions. So, fast forward over, many years of making sport TV and making science TV, we ended up blending those two things together. Started out on Fox Sports, won 3 Emmys. Then moved over to ESPN, and we're now in season 10, having done over 1,500 segments, won another 3 Emmys. And I've just been incredibly fortunate to be able to, I created the project, I'm hosting the project, and been incredibly fortunate to have a front row seat in into sort of the exploding field of sports science.
And it's such a great connection. I mean, I was watching a couple segments because I remember you all the time, and when I'm watching ESPN, but I remember watching the longer version of this show. What's amazing is just the connections you're able to make, John. The connections that you're teaching science while also showing how athletic and unbelievable these athletes are, especially when they come into your laboratory or your laboratory in the way of your studios and ESPN and get to work them out like I saw with KD. That was awesome.
Yeah, I'm really fortunate in that we had a vision of creating sports science, and really, honestly, it was literally we debuted in 2007. And you think back at that time, I mean, the amount of negative television that was out there, I just said, I think people want to be entertained but educated at the same time. And I think there's a market for it. And even when we first sold the show to Fox Sports, they really didn't want to call it sports science because they thought it was too boring of a name. And I said, I think you're selling people short. I think they want exactly this. They want to know about the science behind what they're watching in sports, just to really marvel at humanity and what humans are capable of doing.
Absolutely. And then the backstory that you get to see when you film one of these and getting to talk to the athletes. And I guess that segues right in, John, to your new podcast, because I'm sure you got to know a lot of the athletes who came that you worked with and worked out and did experiments with, right? And kind of got to know them off air. And then that really got you interested in wanting to tell people more of their backstories, right?
Exactly. I mean, the world today is so negative. I mean, you can't read anything on the news, a news feed without just being depressed.
Yes.
Social media is just vicious. So really getting to know these athletes, when people say, what's the difference between good and great? How do these people make it? Look, they're just humans, and they had their own struggles. They had their own ups and downs, but all of them and all of us have had that critical brink of midnight moment in our lives where from that point forward, everything was different. And the podcast is designed to really spread positive energy and inspirational messages from people that everybody knows, and to hear how human they are. And what's been most gratifying, first of all, the response has been overwhelming. Second of all, the guests are telling stories we've really never told anybody.
No.
Like, no one ever sits down and asks these kind of questions. Ray Lewis is a good friend of mine. I said to him, have you ever told anybody this story? He's like, no one's ever been in a position to ask me these questions. And we're diving into his childhood, and he's like, I've never had anybody ask me questions, and I've never been comfortable enough really to talk to somebody. He's like, it's this unique chemistry that I've been able to develop, but it also extends far beyond sports. Remember, I owned a production company, did a lot of projects with a lot of other people. So, there's people like Rob Riggle and Bill Engvall and Damon John and Dr. Drew and lots of people, from different walks of life. So it's not just a sports podcast by any means. It's an inspirational podcast for people to really become inspired on recognizing a brink of midnight moment in their own life.
Exactly. And that's the thing. You're right, John. When I got the chance to interview Mel Brooks, I was able to get a longer interview with him and ask the right questions. Not like a radio tour interview where it's like 8 minutes. I got to sit down and talk to him for 17 or 18 minutes. Some of these guys, 35 minutes. And when you get these opportunities, you can ask questions that no one has really asked them. And they really want to open up because they're used to that just quick soundbite. All those people you mentioned, they do the TV deal. They do all these different interviews. They do the quick get on the phone, talk to somebody, but guess what happens? They never really get to open up to people and truly tell them who they are.
Exactly. And, when you dig deep, like I've been able to do, it's amazing the emotion that comes out. It's amazing how human, when we as a society put celebrities up on a pedestal, they're human just like you and I. They have emotions, they have ups, they have successes, they have failures. And it's really fascinating to hear about I'm not interested in what was it like to, win a Super Bowl. Like those questions have been asked. The real question is, what even put you on that path? Like what was the brink of midnight moment that put you on that path. Because had you not been put on that path, your life would never have been the same.
Yeah, another point, John, is I got the chance to Roger Staubach. He talked about how he coined the Hail Mary. You don't get those opportunities always to get those answers, and that's what's so fun when you have a longer interview process. So, and your guest coming up today that's available is Marshawn Lynch. I cannot believe it. Now, how are you going to get him to open up, John? You got some prepping to do. You had prepping to do for that interview, didn't you?
I did. I have had the great fortune of becoming good friends with Marshawn. We literally met him in the first year we were on ESPN in 2010, and we've had a very strong 7-year friendship. And what's fascinating, what you're going to hear in the Marshawn Lynch podcast that launched today, is him opening up about his view on how to live. And all I can tell you is that he is so authentic. When you finish listening to that podcast, you're going to look back at everything you know about him and say, you know what? I get it. He wants to be true to himself, and he wants to be true to what he believes is the right thing to do. People like to stand back and throw darts. This is a guy that's to be held up as an example of being genuinely an authentic human being.
And it's interesting, John, when you get them a longer period of time, they are authentic human beings. And that's the unbelievable thing about it. But, John, you're a celebrity yourself. Don't sell yourself short. We can check you out on ESPN all the time at ESPN.com/sports-science. And where can we go ahead and download the podcast, listen, subscribe to the podcast now, John? Where can we go?
Yep, you can go to Brink, BRINK, of midnight.com, and everything is there. You can get a Stitcher, iTunes. You can search for it on any of the podcast platforms. On iTunes, type in Brink, the Brink of Midnight podcast. You also can follow me on social media at john-brenkus, BRENKUS _. You can also follow Brink of Midnight on all social platforms, just at Brink, BRINK, of Midnight. I think it's something that, the response has been overwhelming. People are so excited about having refreshing, positive messages that really it's really penetrating. And we're very grateful that we're not alone. We all want to be inspired, I think, and, hopefully this is just one vehicle in everyone's life that can help them really recognize their own Brink of Midnight moments in their lives.
Well, absolutely, John. Thanks for calling. Best of luck. Thanks for coming on the show. Love to chat with you longer sometime, so we'll have that interview someday, okay? Take care, John.
Excellent.
All right, take care. Bye-bye. You're listening to the Neil Haley Show, and we'll be back in just a moment. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Neil Haley Show. You can check me out on Twitter at TotalTutor and NeilHaley.com. And, I love talking history. And music history, I think it shapes the world in so many ways. People look back and they say to themselves, I remember when I heard this song. And this is what Rob gets paid to do all the time, being a Rolling Stone columnist. And he has a newest book, Dreaming the Beatles. So I'm excited to welcome to the program, Rob-Sheffield. Rob, thanks for calling. How are you?
Hey, thanks. Great to talk to you.
Absolutely, Rob. Now, your life covering the Beatles, covering musicians and stuff, what a great job working for the Rolling Stone, right? It must be a dream job for sure.
It's fun, yeah.
You have thousands of stories, don't you, Rob, about just of what you've done as a journalist, don't you?
It's nuts. I got to say, interviewing Stevie Nicks a few years ago was just a completely mind-blowing experience. She's someone who is absolutely in character all the time. It's amazing that these characters, you love their music, and it's fun to hear what they have to say about it.
Most definitely. Now, the Beatles. I don't know if you were alive at all during the Beatles' heyday. I was not. So what is your experience of why writing this book about Dreaming the Beatles?
Well, I wanted to write a book for Beatles fans like you and me who weren't there. And I wanted to write a book Beatles that wasn't a book about the 60s, but, the way the Beatles kept happening in the 70s and the 80s and 90s and today, long after they broke up. And it's amazing how there's no sense that this music belongs to the past. And that's I grew up in the 70s, and and my parents then would laugh when my sisters and I would call the Beatles our favorite band. And our parents would say, don't you know this band broke up? They don't exist anymore. They're over. He said, we don't care. They're still our favorite band. It's really funny to see how that's still going on today.
Yeah, absolutely. And the songs just are still iconic today. Anytime you hear a specific Beatles song, there are Beatles fans all over the world that never grew up listening to the Beatles, and yet they're fans. And that's the exciting thing. But the story of the Beatles, which again, you're talking about dreaming the Beatles, what you wrote in your book that's really interesting is just how they got their big break. It's interesting, isn't it, Rob?
Yeah, they came from nowhere. It's just really kind of amazing. You think of, it's Liverpool and these boys, John and Paul, are growing up and they find out that they like writing songs and they join a band together, and they're teenage boys who they form this friendship that follows them around for the rest of their life and inspires them for the rest of their life. And it's really funny that with their different personalities, they were just the only two boys in town who wrote songs, and they had a bit of heartbreak in common, and somehow they turned that into this friendship that gave birth to this band that has been changing the world ever since.
It's been changing the world ever since. And then once they became the biggest group ever, I guess the American invasion, to come to America, that must have been just an unbelievable time when you've studied it, to write this book, to find out how crazy it was once they got to the States.
Yes, it was more than anything they could have been prepared for. And funny how it just completely haunted them for the rest of their lives, and also inspired them. And the fact that they came to this country that was bigger than they could have dreamed of, and had just touched like all these fans in this massive way. And it's funny that it's still like that now. I went to see Paul last summer, and it was amazing to see the audience, all different generations, all different ages, all different cultures, all different personality types, and all these people just here to enjoy these songs. And Paul played for 3 hours or something like that. It was amazing to see how hard he was working, how hard he was driving himself. He played something like 40 songs, and he ended by playing side two of Abbey Road all the way through. And I thought they were going to have to drag him off stage at the end. It's so inspiring to see him still with so much enthusiasm and passion for it. And this is a guy who's been doing it for 50 years.
Doing it for 50 years and still has that passion and performance. That's what you learned about writing this book, is that they love to perform, right? They came from nowhere, but they just, performing is just something that they love to do, right?
Yeah, and that they love being Beatles, and you listen to an album like Revolver or Rubber Soul, and you can hear how strong their friendship is and how they're just trying to crack each other up, and they're stealing ideas from each other and trading all these in-jokes. And just the sense that these four boys were so close and that they were on this wavelength that everybody around them could sense, even if we couldn't share it, and that they basically turned the whole world into that community.
Turn the whole world into that community. And then the thing that I was reading up on your book is they got more popular once they broke up. How did they break up, Rob? I have no idea how that happened. Why did that group break up?
It's really weird how by the end that John and Paul friendship just kind of fell apart. So by the end, they're working on this record that they started and abandoned a year earlier, Get Back, and they turn it into Let It Be. And they've got all these hours of tapes that, that none of them want to touch, and they hand it to Phil Spector. And Paul does a solo album, and they fight over when the solo album comes out. And Paul releases a Q&A when announcing that he's left the band. And that it was so sudden and so abrupt and so ugly at the end after this incredibly beautiful friendship that had healed them for all these years. And that was something that they had to grieve together, and they kept grieving through the 70s. And it was amazing that even in the 70s, when they went years at a time without seeing each other, that bond still kind of followed them around.
it followed them around, and I guess that they got too big for their britches in certain ways, that they listened to the press, and that they, in a lot of ways, became so iconic that they forgot about where they came from, it sounds like.
Yeah, and that, they tried so hard in the 70s to establish their independent identities, but that the fact that they created all this beautiful music together with the Beatles meant that they were sort of stuck with each other. John had this great quote in 1975 where he said, "If I took up ballet dancing, they'd be comparing my ballet dancing with Paul's bowling." Whatever they did the rest of their lives, people still thought of the Beatles. And there's a really beautiful recording from the last time John was on a concert stage was he did a guest spot with Elton John because they did a song together, Whatever Gets You Through the Night. And Elton bet John that if it hit number one, John had to come out and sing it with Elton on stage in New York. And John never thought that the song would hit number one, but it did. So he comes out and does the song with Elton, and then they end with the Beatles song, "I Saw Her Standing There," and Paul introduces it. "We're just going to do one more number. This is a song by an old estranged fiancé of mine named Paul." It's so beautiful that at that moment, he just has that little shout out to Paul in that moment. It's incredibly beautiful to me.
Incredibly beautiful. Where can we find information on your book, Rob? Purchase your book and learn more about you. I know probably it's available on Amazon, all finer bookstores, but is there a website people can check out about you and stuff like that? They can get the book?
Yeah, at rob-sheffield.com. You can find all the info.
All right, Rob. Well, thanks for calling. Thanks for taking the time to come on the show. I appreciate it. June 1st is a big date, the anniversary of 50th anniversary of Sgt. Pepper. So what a time to talk about this book, have this book come out, and Beatles fans are everywhere. So everyone needs to pick up the book if they're a Beatles fan. So thanks again for calling, Rob, and take care.
Thank you so much. Great to talk to you.
Great talking to you as well. Thanks for taking the time. Appreciate it. Okay. See you later. Bye-bye. You're listening to the Neil Haley Show, and we'll be back in just a moment. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Neil Haley Show. You can check me out on Twitter at TotalTutor and NeilHaley.com. And I tell you, this is like the big buzz. I've been watching it when I've been watching all my favorite shows on ABC. So I'm excited to welcome the program Jennifer-Schemke of ABC's Dirty Dancing. Jennifer, thanks for calling. How are you?
Yes.
You're
welcome. Thank you. I'm doing great. How are you?
Fantastic. You got to be excited about tonight. I mean, especially with we all loved Dirty Dancing when it first came out, and to have this remake and such a talented cast, you got to be excited about tonight.
I am so excited. Yeah, I don't quite know what to do with myself. I think I'm going to go to a Korean spa and relax. Yeah, I'm super excited.
I'm sure for sure. So tell me specifically the story of how you auditioned for this, and then we'll talk about your character.
Yeah, so it was really exciting. I actually was in New York, and my agent in New Orleans sent me the audition, so I had to put it on tape. And my friend Izzy, who is a dear friend of mine and also an actor, she's very technically savvy, so she was like, "I'll tape you." So she came over. We had a few laughs, and I kind of dressed myself in a way that I thought spoke to the era and so forth. And we just laid down a few takes, and the rest was history.
Awesome. And then when you heard the call, you're like, holy cow. And you heard about what was happening. You're like, oh, wow. A remake of something like this? Yeah. Totally.
And the film had such a definite presence in my pre-teen years and beyond. It was one of those projects that I thought, oh my gosh, this is sent from the celestial atmosphere. If this were mine, I would be so over the moon. So, I kind of, after the audition, I put the script in a little closet, but I always kept this kind of sparkly hope in my heart. And when I got the role, I was actually visiting my family in Northern California, and it was just fabulous. I think it was my mom's birthday, actually. So,
oh wow,
it's like a double celebration.
All right, so tell me about your character now, and kind of remind us of that character in the movie. Is it the same character that was in the movie? Your character?
Right. So the character's name is Esther Feinberg, and she's new to this version. Although I'd like to think of her as, as being in the original, but just, you didn't hear from her at all, or you weren't expressly aware of her presence. But definitely in an atmospheric sense, someone like Esther Feinberg was in the original. I think that in this version, the writers were really smart to stick very close to the original scripts, but also expand some of the relationships and themes, just to differentiate it enough and not, try and make it this carbon copy, but more of an homage. And so I think that our characters, my character and my husband, Leon Feinberg's characters, were written in order to support the expanded focus on the relationship of baby's parents.
Yes.
I think that our characters are sort of a what not to do when it comes to marriage.
So your characters are thrown in compared to when baby's parents were more of a. So interesting, the putting this out there and knowing more of a backstory in this story compared to the movie. It sounds like that's what they wanted.
Could you say that one more time?
The backstory. They wanted the backstory. That's okay. No, they wanted Jennifer. They wanted more of a backstory, a little bit with some of the new characters created for this. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So they, I think that they wanted more of a backstory and more of a look into some of the characters that you loved, but you didn't really get to see their point of view as much. It was so much from baby's perspective. So you kind of get to see where other characters are coming from in relation to that.
And this is an all-star cast for people that have not heard about tonight. So tell us some of the major characters that are the stars that are going to be in this film. It's this original. Tell us. I mean, I saw the list and I was like, holy cow! It's a really, really good cast.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. When the audition came my way, I wasn't privy to all of the megawatt star power that was involved. It's really in no particular order. Deborah Messing and Katie Seagal and Billy D. Williams, of all people.
Wow.
Sarah Hyland, of course, Abigail Breslin. And then I think they were really wise to cast a newcomer as Johnny, so that, people weren't making such a strong star connection between, the actor playing him and Patrick Swayze. But and then it was really kind of cool because oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm actually getting a ticket right now in my car. I think that the man issuing me the ticket didn't know that I was in the car, and he thought, oh my goodness, how embarrassing. We might have to revisit this part of the interview, or maybe just lend it some color.
It always blends color. Trust me, you wouldn't believe the people I've interviewed in different positions in my career. Don't worry about it. No, it's fine. I just feel bad for you. No, so let's segue. Let's segue away from ABC's Dirty Dancing. Everyone's tuned in tonight, but you have two major things also coming up. You play Gidget, and tell us a little bit about that project and what's happening. The character Gidget you're going to play as a happy therapist in an anticipated show called Magic Funhouse. So tell us a bit about Magic Funhouse.
Yes. Okay. So this is kind of a fabulous project. So Magic Funhouse is the brainchild of a gentleman named Brandon Rogers, who's, I believe, a comedic genius and just a visionary. And I met him when he was kind of before he blew up, so to speak, at a film festival in Northern California, where we both had films that we've written and directed. And in the film that I had in the festival, I wrote a little cameo in for myself. And he so loved my work in that he said, please keep in touch. And then fast forward to 2016, he blew up on YouTube, and rightfully so. He's been at it a long time, making these amazing, hilarious videos, and got funding to do this show, Magic Funhouse, which is on fullscreen.com, sort of a Netflixy-esque, similar, setup to Netflix. So it's called fullscreen.com. And so he wrote me a role in season 1, which is Gidget, who is she's a laughter therapist
She's based on one of the comedy characters that I wrote for myself. That's something I do.
Oh, cool.
I write these different comedic characters. And so he kind of had one of my characters, Patty, in mind for creating Gidget. But she's a laughter therapist with a definite dark, secret side. And then in season 2, I just finished my role in season 2, and that's a completely different character named Mama Gladys. And I don't want to give too much away about her, but she's pretty antithetical to Gidget. Definitely a harsh and maniacal presence in that show. But I really recommend watching Magic Funhouse if you get a chance. It's a real ride.
And also, you're creating content as well based on a novel. Tell us about that too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you say based on a novel? Oh, I think you may be referring to a novel that I co-authored called Illegitimate, which is available on Kindle. That was really amazing. It wasn't my story. It's the story of a woman who, in late 1960s, before Roe versus Wade, she gets pregnant in high school, and she's just this nice, wholesome girl from San Diego, and she finds herself in this situation, and she is sent to a Salvation Army-run kind of home for wayward girls, and it's just a really interesting look at the ways that our societal views of such things can affect the lives of the people who are, in those situations. And it's a really kind of it's a nice timepiece, but it still definitely has ripples into today.
And then then you're going to film, and you're going to take that into a film at one point that you co-authored?
Well, we've been talking about it. I think it would make an incredible film, and maybe even a series. And there's so many fabulous female roles in it. I mean, it's chock full of women of all walks of life and their stories and takes. So I really think it would be great. We've kind of been talking about it a little bit. She has some contacts that she thinks would be good collaborators as well. As for original, content that I'm creating, aside from that, it's I have some ideas based on the characters that I mentioned before. I started to do this show a few years back. I did a trailer for it where the characters kind of go out on the street and interview people.
Oh, cool.
And then they have kind of an office life. They all work for the same correspondence company. So they go out and they do their correspondent jobs. And then, so I would essentially be playing, most of the characters involved. Although I would love to involve some of my very talented friends. So
you like to do multiple characters.
In the early stage.
It sounds like you like to do multiple characters, Jennifer, especially when you talked about Magic Funhouse and how you're going from one character to the next character. You're interested. You like that whole character acting thing for sure. I can't believe, again, tonight, yes. ABC, Dirty Dancing, check you out. And where can we find information on you? Are you on Twitter that people could tweet you out and stuff and root you on tonight and all that stuff? Where can we follow you and find info on you?
Oh, that would be amazing. My Twitter is at Schemke, which is my last name, Schemke. I'm on Instagram. I'm at the Shempire, Schempire. And then my website, which is jennifer-schemke.com.
Well, fantastic. Thanks for taking the time, especially an exciting night for you as well, to take the time to come on the show. And best of luck on all your great ventures. And you're welcome to come back on anytime when you have new stuff to talk about. So thanks again for calling, Jennifer.
Oh, God. I would love it. I'm off to the Korean Bar.
All right. Take care. Thanks again.
Thanks, Neil.
Take care. Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. You're listening to The Neil Haley Show, and we'll be back in just a moment. Hi, everyone, and welcome to The Neil Haley Show. You can check me out on Twitter at TotalTutor and NeilHaley.com. And the holidays are coming. I can't believe it, Memorial Day. But my guest has a very, very interesting book and an interesting story. But also, she might give me some tips to kind of get me ready for Sunday. So I'm excited to welcome the program. For Monday. I'm excited to welcome the program celebrity chef Barbara Lynch, author of Out of the Line, A Life of Playing with Fire. How are you, Chef Barbara. Thanks for calling.
I'm great. How you doing?
Fantastic. You know,
having me on your show.
Well, I just wanted to first say congratulations on being named 100 most influential people in with Time. I mean, that's got to just be I looked at that list and holy cow, what a list to be on.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm still in shock. I'm like, oh my God, really? Me? But I'll take it. It's great. Thank you.
Yeah, so you worked very hard, but you started with humble beginnings. Am I correct, Chef Barbara, that it was not an easy life growing up for you?
No. My mom was a widow, and she had 7 of us, and 6 of us, and I was the last of 6.
Oh wow! Okay, so the last of
basically she was a busy lady.
Yeah, absolutely. So a big family. I have 5 kids of my own, so I understand. I was the only child, but now with my wife and I, we have 5 kids, and we understand those challenges. And to lose to be widowed, and how your mom was able to make it, and you were the last of them, so you had a lot of help, I guess, surviving with your siblings, didn't you?
Oh, no. I mean, I think, they were a bit older as well. So I think my mother she worked like 3 or 4 jobs to keep us off welfare. So she was a pretty busy lady. And I was, never really didn't get any of the attention, or I really wasn't disciplined. So I was pretty creative as a kid, put it that way.
Okay, so you didn't have...
of getting it, like...
So you got the practice, right? How did you practice your creativity, Chef Barbara?
A lot was just on friends first, and by working on a boat was one of my first cooking jobs, and then I just I sort of knew if I could cook, I'd always have a job, and even as a young teenager, so I had odd jobs all around, and then I decided to give it a try in real kitchens, and now here I am.
So when you first got into a kitchen, were you definitely afraid at first when you first started to cook? Meaning you cooked for friends and tried different things, but then once you were training to become this, was it something like wow, this wow factor, or did it just come easily and naturally for you?
Yeah.
Huh?
I mean, I would say that I felt more comfortable in the kitchen. Even till this day, it's still a wow factor that, oh my God, this tastes great, or oh, people like this dish. I'm never really satisfied with ounces, but the fact that that whole wow moment is still kicking. Really, it's always fun to still create and create dishes.
Absolutely, and from that process. So tell us that. So you humble beginnings. Where did you go when you first, got your first job as a chef? Tell us that story.
My first job was basically on Martha's Vineyard, and I lied my way into this job. He was looking for cooks, and I went in and asked to be, to apply for the cook's position, and I automatically said, well, there's no women cooks these days. Women don't cook, or don't you want to be a host or a server? And I said, no, I want to cook.
Yeah.
And it took about an hour to convince him, and then he gave me the job, showed up the next day, and the chef quit. And then he said, well, do you think you can do it? And I said, absolutely. I'm making quahog chowder, Dover sole. I lied my whole way through this job. Anyway, I got and it was amazing because it was a very successful dinner-diner cruise. And after that, it was just, right, I found what I love to do. That was it.
So when did you decide to go from chef to, again, put yourself again in the life of playing with fire, becoming an entrepreneur and a restaurateur? Because once you go from chef to you have to run everything, that's a different story, isn't it? Mm-hmm. For sure.
Well, yeah. I mean, I didn't come from a financial background or a culinary background, or I never graduated high school. So wow. I was always dependent on, management to kind of run the books and run the operations. And, at one point in my 30-year career, I had 2 managers that really just wanted to kind of get rid of me, the founder of the, or the owner of the company, because they thought they could do it better. So I was, 15 years ago, or no, not 15, I'd say 10 years ago, I decided to get rid of that manager and run the company myself. And I have to say, if I didn't learn it on the job and figured out that they really didn't know what they were doing, I don't think I'd have 8 restaurants right now. So, yeah, coming out of the line, it was a big step for me, and successful nonetheless.
And you took the chance. You decided to get out of your comfort zone, for sure, because when you're placed in the circumstance that you were placed in your life, and you could just been just a server, meaning a server in a way of just, okay, I'm gonna play in the background. I'm not gonna take chances. And you decided, no way, no how, I'm going after this. And that's what sounds like the entire life. And that's what people, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you got to take a risk, right? If you don't take a risk, what? Well, I actually had nothing to lose, so it was like, I'm gonna go for this. But I also felt like if I didn't get rid of this person, then what am I going to do with my 240 employees that have, mortgages to pay, school loans to pay, and so forth? I mean, it's not going to work out the way it's going right now. So I didn't want to let it collapse either.
All right, well, fantastic. Real quick tip for Monday. What would you recommend for the cookout for us to go ahead and try? What's a recommendation?
Wood grill, low and low. I love cooking. Well, because I'm from New England, so we do a lot of seafood. So I love grilling oysters. I love grilling lobsters, whole fish. On charcoal, like this, it's actually wood charcoal from Japan that is amazing. It really retains the heat, and so you can cook long hours and so forth.
And your book is available on Amazon, and also, yeah. So are you there? And your book's available on Amazon, and where else can we find information on you, Chef Barbara?
Oh my God! Just Google Barbara Lynch.
Everywhere. Oh, okay. I understand. For sure. Congrats again on the 100, being 100 influential people in the world, and good luck with your book, and thanks again for calling.
Oh, my gosh. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on.
Take care. Thanks. Okay, take care.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye. You're listening to The Neil Haley Show, and we'll be back in just a moment.